Thanks for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. If you are new to the podcast, I'm Lorenzo. I'm the host. Been doing this podcast almost 3 years now. We're coming up on 3-year anniversary, so I got to figure out something special for that. We're also coming up on 200 episodes. As you listen to this episode, I believe it is episode 187. So I don't know what we're gonna do with that. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even have any ideas. I should probably figure that out because it's coming sooner than later. But we've been around for 3 years and we have almost 200 episodes because of you all. So thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing to everything, telling people about it. We've done a lot. We've added a podcast called Three Different Dads to our Nerdball network. I think it's funny that we have this network, even though it is me on both shows. The other one just happens to be two other guys. Also in the works is another podcast called My Dead. I know that was previously put out in one quick episode just to kind of give you a preview. There's a couple of people I've been talking to about coming on that, so hopefully we can get that going. That'll be, if I can get it going and get some episodes recorded, that'll hopefully be out in the spring of 2024. I kind of want to have those out ready to go, and those will probably be in seasons more than anything. So we'll put them all out once, and then every 6 months to a year we'll put more out. But again, we added stuff because it's fun. I enjoy it. People enjoy it, and people that come on here enjoy it. As with this guest. So this guest is someone I met. He works for Lathrop. He was our contractor for Glass City Metro Park, where I work currently. He's been a big help there, become a friend, and it was cool to sit down with him and go through his life. And I'm excited for you all to listen. He has some pretty good stories. Also, I'm sure he'll be back on at some point to tell more stories. So I'm excited for you all to listen to this episode. Thanks again for always supporting the podcast. Continue to like, share, review, and subscribe. Thanks.
Hi, this is Ian Townsend, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect. All right, Ian, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We've known each other for, I don't know, like a year now.
Yeah.
And you've been, just so everyone knows, all the few listeners here, you are the contractor for Glass City Phase 2. So we've had plenty of conversations, it was a lot of work stuff. And then we find time, we talk about personal stuff. So you've become a pretty good friend to me, helping me not only work, but just chit-chatting. So I appreciate that. Because you are like the number one person when there's an issue. I'll just call you in. We'll see if he can help me. Eventually, that's not going to be the case anymore. So I should probably start trying to figure all these things out.
But you can always call me Lorenzo.
Yeah. But the first thing I always ask people is, what is something they've been nerding out about lately? Something, or not even lately, just a hobby, something you've been into. If it's something you've done all your life, something you just started doing, but just something that kind of gets you away from your job, like that you can do. Either you do it with just by yourself or with your family, but just something that kind of gets you away from the daily grind of things.
Yeah. So for me, I'd spend all day out there as we were building the park and everything. And typically, I'd come home and just kind of to decompress. I'd get out in the yard, man, and start trimming bushes, pulling weeds. And, it kind of, it's something about just getting on your hands and knees, digging around in the dirt, and, takes your mind off of the day-to-day grind. So, I've been doing that. I mean, but that was something I used to do even, when I was in the Navy. If I had a chance to be at home and I could just go out in the yard, start digging around, that's what I would do.
So you said you've been doing that for a while, but now that you have a house and this is your thing, like, are there particular things you like about like this certain area of the yard? Or I like the grass, it's such a dad thing. Like I mowed the grass yesterday and I drove off today. I'm like, man, my grass looks good.
Yeah. No, man, like I'll be honest. I hate cutting grass. I
Yeah.
don't like, but I do like, like I got a lot of planter beds and everything. So like I like getting in the beds and pulling weeds out and kind of shaping things up, cleaning things up. Like
Yeah.
that's how I kind of get away.
Do you have, is that, do you have I know you have kids. Do you have your kids out there with you? Do you make them go out there or are like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to be out there and pull some weeds for a little bit by myself?
Yeah, no, they were just getting away, man. Hey,
Well, now they're older, right? My dad used to always tell me when we had my son, he's like, hey, when he gets older, he's going to want to help you do things. It's going to take like 10 times as long, but you have to help him because at some point he's just not going to ask you anymore. And so you gotta let him help you. And now as he's going to be 12 next month. And now it's like, hey, you have to do this thing, please.
right. That's how it works for most people. No,
Yeah.
I just because it's a relaxing thing for me. It doesn't even cross my mind to go ask them, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I just go get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I always tell people like that question to me is important because the last thing I want to do is be wrapped up in my job 24/7. Like I like to have things and I do, some would say I do too many things. I have this podcast. I do also like to work in the yard. I coach football. I coach my daughter's softball team. Like there's a lot of things that I do. But I always got to have this. I always got to have this work phone in my pocket,
Right.
just in case. It's never totally gone for me, but it's as we continue to grow in Glass City, there'll be less and less phone calls. But it is important that to me that people have that ability to shut off, even if it's just for an hour, just to go out and, for in your case, pull some weeds.
Yeah.
Do you get, besides from us, do you get like, will your people call you and text you after hours? Do you get a lot of that?
I mean, so for you guys on this project, because Glass City, this was my first project with Lathrop. And so, when we came out of the winter season,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and we started running some of the systems, and I think that's when I started, to get the weekend calls, the after hours calls, but everything's kind of slowed down, and I think you guys are figuring things out, and the park's running pretty smoothly. So, I mean, it does happen, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's I mean, we both know that's part of the job we have is to deal with those things, and just having understanding spouses that also helps too. Like, hey, I gotta take this phone call, or today, like I told my wife, like, I gotta run into work real quick, something's going on. She's just like, all right, see ya. Like, because there's some of those people are like, again, or can't they figure it out, or this or that. But she also works. She was actually working on her computer doing work stuff when I left. So
Herself, yeah.
yeah. So she does that kind of stuff too. So it helps. It makes it a little easier that way.
Yeah.
I know from talking to you, you said you grew up around here, right?
Yep. Born and raised Toledo, Ohio. Yep.
Yeah. What school did you go to? You went to city school?
Yeah, I went to Scott High School.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then it was, I think we started talking about football and stuff, and that's when you said you played. Did you play football from a young age, or did you start like in high school, or when did you start playing football?
Yeah, I think I started playing like I was like 9 or 10 years old. So yeah, I started out. I grew up on the north side of town, and so I started out over there, and little league, junior high, and then high school, and then I got recruited to go to college, and it was like that was my love.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I played it when I played for the Reynolds Corners Redskins when I was
My nephews play there now.
Oh, do they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I played for them. My older brother played, and that's really the only reason I played at first. Because every season I'd get halfway through and I would cry because I didn't want to go to practice anymore. My dad's like, you got to finish it. You got to finish it. And it was like 3 or 4 years, or like about 3 years that was the case. Like I played because my brother played, and then once he was gone, I'm like, all right, well, this is still something I want to do. And as I got older, I started liking it. Plus, I was always bigger than everybody, so it made it more fun because I no one was there to push me around, So, but I enjoyed football. How was your recruiting experience? Because I got recruited a little bit. I got a couple preferred walk-ons, but how was your recruiting experience? And were you able, like looking back now, where did you think you took advantage of all the opportunities you had? Because I know I didn't, because I had no idea what I was doing. But what was the process like for you?
For me, it was interesting, man. Like I had, the big like hockey Nike bags,
Yeah,
the big bags they carry. So I had a bag like that, plus like another smaller Nike duffel bag, plus like 6 Nike shoe boxes, like full with letters,
yeah,
from all over the country, man. And it was a very exciting time in my life. It was quite the adventure, man. And I used to have coaches would come up to Scott High School, man, and they call me out of class and I go meet coaches, things like that. And, Coach Monken, actually, he's the head coach at Army right now. He actually recruited me to the Naval Academy. And so to have that opportunity, I mean, it was amazing, man.
yeah,
And I was so grateful because you know how it is, man. You grow up, you plan the game, and like for me, it was a goal to get a scholarship for playing football because my parents, they didn't have the means to like pay for college or anything. And I remember one time, I'm riding in the back seat, and my mom and dad were up there talking, and my dad he put a rear view mirror up and pointed to you in the back seat, and he was like, "Hey man, you want to go to college? You need to get a scholarship."
yeah.
So okay, and he just I that's one of the realest conversations I probably ever had with my parents. They just told me flat out. I think I was in like fifth grade, man.
Really?
Like, you want to go to college? You need to get a scholarship because we can't pay for it. And
Yeah.
from that point forward, it was all about just I need to get a scholarship. So I think I lucked out there.
Were you
Yeah.
so all these letters, everything, did you take all the visits and everything that you were able to take? Were you able to do that stuff?
Yeah, like I took visits. I remember actually, going out to Annapolis, taking that visit there, which was really cool. Got to, meet the players on the team at the time and, see the campus, beautiful campus. So, a place like that, man, you go take a visit there, like it sells itself, you know. Yeah.
Did you have any other schools that were like that you thought that you might attend besides the Naval Academy?
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point like early on in high school, because you go around the camps and things like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, man, I remember, you know, I had Northwestern was on the table at some point, Ohio University, they were on the table. Coach Amstutz at Toledo,
Yeah.
back when he was there. Yeah, he talked to Coach Amstutz. And I mean, hell, Jim Tressel, believe it or not, I mean, he came into Scott High School, pulled me out of class, kind of sized me up.
Wow.
That dude, that guy was short, man.
Was it-
It was so, man. I come into the office and like it was funny because when they call you out of class, like they wouldn't tell me who it was. They just say it's a coach here. And man, I
okay.
walked into the main office and this dude, he was there with his quarterback coach, and they both were like tiny. I was like, damn, like TV really, they know how to work those cameras. But no, I
Yeah.
mean, like, I had quite the experience, coming up. Like I said, very exciting, very interesting. And I just very grateful for it. So
So what ultimately was like, because you played quarterback, so what ultimately was like because as an offensive lineman for years, it's like, all right, I do my job, no one really knows my name sometimes, this is just what it is. As a quarterback, everybody knows who you are, everyone knows your name. You don't seem like the kind of guy to be like, hey, everyone look at me, just based on
no,
the little bit I know
I,
you just didn't fit that part of it. So that wasn't important to you. So what ultimately was like, all right, I'll go to the Naval Academy. Did you was that also a thing where you wanted to be in the military too, or was that just like a secondary thing besides like, I'm gonna play football and I guess it's gonna be here?
so I'll tell you, man, like first of all, you are right about me because I'm struggling being on this camera right now. I do not like attention, man. But yeah, I mean, if you remember, I was in high school back in my senior year. Senior season was 2001. And you remember September 11th
Mhm.
happened in 2001. And I was, when something like that happens, you kind of you reflect, and it was just like, man, I mean, I remember they canceled the football games that weekend, like everything was just screwed up. And that was the
Mhm.
first time it had ever crossed my mind, like, military is an option. You're a young kid trying to figure things out.
Mhm.
But I mean, I had gone so far as to look up, West Point, Annapolis, um, even the Air Force Academy, and kind of just, get a feel. Like, what's that like? And so when Coach Monken came and started recruiting me, it was like it was really just the best option on the table, man. It's like I said, it sells itself. It's the
Mhm.
greatest opportunity. You go to a school like that, coming from where I come from, like, yeah, you go through that process, it just changes your life. So very, very grateful for it.
Did you have other members of your family that were in the military?
Uh yeah, I mean, older generations, yes. I had an
Okay.
uncle, my grandmother's brother. He was like a master sergeant or something in the army. I mean, he used to work in the Pentagon, things like that. And I got, several cousins who were in like the Marine Corps. So yeah, family on both sides. Yep.
How so you were there from two wait, what years were you there from then?
Were the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
So Naval Academy, when I graduated in '02, I went to the Naval Academy Preparatory School up in Newport, Rhode Island.
Mhm.
So I started there in '02, graduated in '03, and then I went on to the Naval Academy in '03 to '07.
Okay.
And then, got commissioned there. So
And you played football the whole time you were there?
no, I only played like my first 2 years. You know how it is. You get those injuries and stuff, and it's just
Mhm.
like, college sports, man, is interesting. Like, it's fun in high school, coming up as a kid playing the game, but like when you get to that level, you're gonna find out real quick if you love that game or not. It's a job, man.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's I was gonna say because that's what ultimately decided like, hey, I'm not going to play college football. Is I liked it. It was fun. I didn't love it, and I knew I didn't love it. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
spend 14 hours of my day doing something I don't love
Yeah.
to do. Right.
Yeah.
Uh. So, but on top of like you, it's okay. You're playing football. You're going to school, and you're in the military. Like that's a lot of things like for an 18, 19-year-old kid to like have to do right away. It seems like a lot.
Yeah. No, that like, not just football, just any sport. When you see students, midshipmen, the Black Knights, man, Air Force Academy, like when
Mhm.
you see those students, just know. I mean, people will say great things about them, but I'm telling you, like, it's tough.
Yeah.
Like those programs, they are tough, and they're filled with tough people. Um, and it's, like I said, it was so eye opening, going out to Annapolis and just seeing like the cream of the crop from the country. I mean,
Mhm.
from the world, because you get exchange students too. I mean, it was just really, really special.
Was there a point where you in those years you're like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I think once. So I when I was at the preparatory school, I got to the preparatory school, and I mean, I got voted team captain and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
things were going the right way, and then I broke my ankle. Broke my ankle, I had a plate, 7 screws put in there. They're still in my ankle. And then I had a high sprain at the same time. So I was on crutches for like 6, 7 months. You know what I mean? And then so you come off the crutches, you're doing all the physical therapy and everything. And then shortly after that, I'm finally able to walk again, start jogging. Well, then as I'm, trying to get myself back together, I tore my PCL.
Oh
And I
my
mean,
gosh.
yeah, so it was just one injury after next. And it was just like, finally get to the Naval Academy. And it's just, it was a struggle, man. Trying to, because you have to. The way I feel about it is, like in football, man, everybody gets injured, but it's
Mhm.
mentally certain injuries is like, all right, how do you respond? Some people can get over that mental hump. For me, I think I just struggle with that.
I see. Yeah, I see that a lot. Coaching high school football, and it's one thing to have an injury, like if you tear an ACL, like the kid's devastated. The season's over, regardless of where he's at, and then depending on when it happens, the next season might be in jeopardy. And we had or those kids that over the years I've had kids that would tear something, come back, be with us for a couple weeks, then their other knee, some tears in their other knee, and they're out on a whole nother year. And that's just like you said, those compounding things is what mentally is like, I've been working so hard. I don't know if I can work hard again to come
Yeah.
back to I don't know what's going to happen, even like something else could happen. And it is that mental part of it is probably something that might get overlooked more than just the physical. Like, yeah, you broke this or tore this, now get it, now fix it.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah. No,
that's a
no, you're right, man. And I've seen people, have injury after injury and they keep going. And I get it, but and that's more power to them, man. I got a lot of respect for that. But I know for me personally, it was a struggle
Mhm.
mentally,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, as you were going through the Naval Academy, and was there something you knew you wanted to do like in the Navy, or is it just like, hey, wherever they're gonna put me, they're gonna put me? Because I don't know. I just understand. I know, and I had a couple of people that went into the Army, and my dad, for some reason, he wasn't one of them, but for some reason, I remember having a conversation with him, like, hey, if you decide to go in the military, my uncle would tell me this too, like make sure you go into something that you want to do, because they'll take you and then they'll put you where they need you if you don't have a spot or something. But if you're willing to wait and see if there's things opening up or something that you want to do, then do that. So I don't know for you, like what was the case, if was there something that you kind of pinpointed, like, hey, I want to do this in the Navy?
Yeah. So I don't know how they do it at other service academies, but at the at the Naval Academy, it's kind of like it's like the draft for the military. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? For prospective officers coming out of the Naval Academy, right? You have what's called service selection night. So every member of the class, I mean, because you got to know from Naval Academy, man, you can go, you can drive ships, you can be a Marine, you can be a SEAL, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's options. There's people who, there's a select amount of positions for people who want to go in the medical route. There's just options.
Mm-hmm.
Supply corps, deal with logistics. Um, and so you have service selection. And for me, it didn't take me long to figure out, like, I wouldn't mind like driving ships. It was very I don't know. I just to this day, I just love being on the water. You know what I mean? And so it was service selection, and then the real night where it's like draft night is when we did ship selection. So then you get to pick. We got ships all over the world, right? So then you get to go up. They've got a board up on the stage, and then everybody you go up, and it's based on your class ranking. And so you go up in order and you pick your ship, which one you're going to go to. Think
Mm-hmm.
about that. I mean, that's all over the world. So like some people go up there and you might pick a ship that's in San Diego. So coming up here within the next year, you're going to, end up in San Diego, or, you may pick a ship that's in Rota, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really, like, that's a cool experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I saw it from the midshipman side, and then I saw it from the commissioned officer side, where we would set up the program for the then midshipman to go up and do the same thing. So it was interesting. It's really cool. And I mean, you'll have like ships captains come in, captains of ships. You might get commodores, admirals. Like there's a lot of like people. They show up. I mean, it was a big deal
Where
within the community.
yeah, yeah. Where'd you end up at first then?
So my first Yeah, my first ship was a destroyer, guided missile destroyer, DDG 72 USS Mahan. And that was in Norfolk, Virginia. I met that ship in Gdynia, Poland, and on deployment. And we came back home, and I drove that ship around the world and back, man. I love that ship. So yeah.
Wow, that's that's fascinating. First of all, I hate the water and everything that deals with the water. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
We have those docks that we deal with, and uh, if I go like when I walk on all the way at the end of it and it moves, I instantly get a headache. Like I don't like anything to do with the water at all. So
No.
it's crazy to me that people do love the water because I have nothing but bad things to say about it.
Nah, I love it out there, man. Speaking of, I remember we were talking about something with those docks. If we still need to go down there, let me know.
Oh,
Um,
okay, all right.
yeah. But no, man. I mean, like so I was a boarding officer. Is on Mahan, my first ship. It's called Visit Board Search and Seizure, right? So you had an 18-person team where you would go out and depending, it's a what's called it's a warfare area or a mission area.
Okay.
And which sometimes you're going out, you're looking for, you do counter drug ops, piracy, anti-piracy operations, human trafficking, wow, all kind of stuff out there. And so you would take that team and we get in our 7-meter ribs, little small boats, and we lower them into the water and we go over to another ship and we just take over the ship and we just start searching and we're doing all kinds of stuff, right? And so I remember one time, I got my team out there. We're doing some training out in the Chesapeake Bay, actually in the Atlantic Ocean, just off the coast of Virginia. And we're in the rib, and I'm sitting on the side of the rib, and the water was flat. We kind of smoking back to the ship.
Yeah.
Boom. And the dolphins love the wakes we create. They like to jump in the wakes. And so I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, man, like a foot away next to the boat is this dolphin, and he's just going in, coming out, going in, coming out. So I reach my hand out and I touch him right out in the middle of the ocean, right out in the wild. And it was just the coolest experience.
Wow.
And I'm touching him as he comes up and goes in, comes up, goes in. They love it, man. Like,
That's
seriously.
crazy.
Yeah, when we like ships, when we would come up to max speed, I'm talking about, man, you would see hundreds and hundreds of dolphins. They'd just be jumping in our wake. Yeah, they loved it. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I was waiting to see. I was not expecting you to be like, yeah, I touched a wild dolphin. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool when I went on a cruise one time. Although as much as I hated water, the cruise was awesome, but we made sure it was the biggest boat they had because I didn't want to feel anything.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool to like just see them, and they were like miles, way far away. And I was like, oh, look, there's dolphins out there, but you were just right next to them. That's awesome, man. That's a cool experience, and then something like you're not. It's not like, hey, look at all these hundreds of people. It's like you and 7, 8 other people are just this little group, man. That's cool.
Yeah, it makes you feel small.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You mentioned piracy. I always see these videos on TikTok where it's like I don't know if it's like a cargo ship or some other type of ships, and it's from the perspective of the security that they have on board, and they see these little tiny boats coming, and that's the pirates trying to take the boat, and these boats are so small, and then these guys are just unloading on them with whatever guns they have, just firing into the water, just private security or whoever these guys have. But I'm like, man, these people want these boats so bad that they're most likely going to get killed trying to get on these boats. But they're just unloading on these boats.
Yeah, man. Like I don't know if you've ever seen, what's it called? That movie is called Captain Phillips.
Oh yeah.
With Tom Hanks, I think. So
yep.
So yeah, the ship, I think it was the Bainbridge. They came in after us and took over the counter piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden. So that movie, that ship you see in there, we were the ship playing that role in that theater before they got in. Like literally, we're leaving through the Red Sea, Suez Canal, like on our way out of theater, heading up to the Mediterranean Sea. Like we saw them heading in. And then I think before we even got back home from deployment, the whole Captain Phillips thing happened. But before they were out there doing counter piracy ops, we were out there. Like I've actually, taken down some pirates before.
Really?
Oh yeah, man. It was called like at night. So you have over there in the Gulf of Aden, and we put this out to like all the merchants around the world. And the whole point of what we were doing in the Gulf of Aden, it was like it's just all about freedom of navigation and ensuring that international commerce continued without any interruptions from things like piracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when ships were traveling through, and you have to understand, like the Gulf of Aden was so important because the waters down at the southernmost point of Africa, the continent of Africa, you go down there, like they're treacherous. Nobody wants to travel around there. Same thing, the waters down at the bottom of, you get to the southern end of South America. Like nobody likes to travel those routes.
Okay.
So it's so important coming through the Gulf of Aden, because if you go, once you head south and try and go around these large continents, like there's an increased, probability that you can do serious damage to a ship or personnel, right?
Okay.
And so we have what was called the International Recognized Transit Corridor. And, there was essentially a set of like coordinates and waypoints that we put out to, civilian merchant traffic to say, hey, travel in this area and there's going to be, some ships around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, usually ships would stay in that corridor. I remember one time, man, like, and I'll never forget this story. I'm on watch on the ship. We're up there just, patrolling at night, and there's nothing out there. We're just, doing our little patrol in the IRTC. And then there's one ship that pops up, and I'll never forget, ship pops up, little blip on the radar screen. You start trying to figure out who they are, what's their name, all that stuff. So we get the names, Prim Divya. I'll never forget this. I mean, this ship might have got, we saw this ship initially probably like, 15 miles away. And then she gets to a point where she's like maybe 4 or 5 miles away from us. And all of a sudden she starts screaming on the radio. And it's these pirates, man. The pirates coming to get them, and they're over there, they're shooting at the ship, everything. So we go and, come up speed, just race over to them. And we're trying to find these pirates. This happens, man. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. So we're chasing these things down. We give a call to the admiral, and he gets some helicopters up. And then we launched our UAV as soon as the sun broke. And sure enough, we found them. The helicopters kind of got on top of them. And those rotary blades, when they get on top of that small boat, that skiff, it just washes them out. They just spin in place. They can't move.
Okay.
And so, so then I get off the bridge. I've been up there since 2 o'clock. It's like 6:30 now. So I've been driving all night, and I am tired. And then I got to go down. I go suit up, grab all my Kevlar, my rifle, my pistol, and we go over there.
Yeah.
We take them down, man. And I mean, they got, they got rifles, pistols, machetes. They got all kind of stuff on board, man. And we got those guys. We even took their boat. We strapped them up, and we had a big one of our big supply ships. We brought them into it, and so rigged up their little skiff and took it on board the supply ship for evidence, man. Like it was intense out there. I got a lot of those little stories, man, where it was just they were wild. These guys, they had these ladders. And they slap them on the ship at a low point where they can get on board, and they had like grappling hooks where they could throw them up on the side of the ship, and they just climb on and take over. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, I mean, in your mind, like as these things are happening too, I mean, it's easy to. It's the main thing is like they literally have nothing to lose. So what does that mean? What does that mean to me as I engage these people,
Yeah. Well, I think we always got to keep in mind, like when you think pirates, you may think like Johnny Depp or something like that, some crazy like Pirates of the Caribbean or something you saw on TV. But no, man, like these like they're kids.
Yeah.
They were kids, man, and it's so sad because they come from a place where they have no other options, and you try and understand and be, at the same time you want to be safe and make sure you get home too. And so it was, there was a lot of thought that went into those types of operations for us, because you had to take everything into consideration, but yeah, a great experience, man. Great experience.
Man, that's wild. Those are Go
So
ahead.
I wanted to hold on, but one thing. So check this out. I remember getting in the small boat, right?
Yeah.
So we get in our rib and we're heading over to engage, these pirates or whatever. And as we're heading over, we got them in there, hands up, hands behind the head. We've already communicated, like we've washed them out. They sitting still, they're dead in the water. And so now we're heading over to go, arrest these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget making this approach to this boat. And the first thing I noticed is there's a guy on there with a Dallas Cowboy jacket on. And I said, that damn Jerry Jones, I knew he was a terrorist, man. Like, this is that's the first thing I noticed as a Dallas Cowboys jacket. I said, I knew it, man. No, it was, it's so funny because in that moment, like it's intense and it's a lot. It's a lot of information you're trying to figure out. It's a lot going on. And it's, you running through checklists and you making sure you're doing everything right. And in the midst of all that, I just see a Dallas Cowboys jacket. I just kind of smile like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Dallas Cowboys strike again.
That's my team.
Yeah,
right there.
I figured I knew I'd get somebody.
Oh, that's cool, man. Those stories are so like they're both great experiences, but one is about touching this dolphin that's awesome, and then having to arrest seemingly children, and them both in the middle of the ocean, just like on from A to Z on there, man. That's crazy. How long were you in the Navy?
So I did 11 years active duty.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's I know a lot of times like people will ask and it's all small life stuff. Like a lot of people have asked me before, like, do you regret not playing football in college? And I say no, because they're, I might not have met my wife and have my kids and all this stuff. And, if you in your 11 years, I'm sure there was a lot of times where it's like, man, I wish that would have happened differently or would have handled that differently. Is there anything that really sticks out where it's like, man, that's kind of sticks with you today, or any type of situation where it's like, man, I wish that would have went differently, good or bad, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, from the perspective of school, I'm actually, I wouldn't change anything, man. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Good.
From school, I mean, by the time I was, had made that decision, like, all right, I need to move on, and just from football perspective, it was just like, because the school was hard too. I mean, it was very, very, it was a tough school, and so you get to that point. I was young and just trying to figure things out, man, and I don't regret those decisions, because probably wouldn't have graduated, if I hadn't made that decision. I mean, in the Navy, once I was commissioned, I look back on my career there, and I got no regrets there either. But I had a blast and I balled while I was in, man. Like I, learned a ton.
Yeah.
If you ever want to know why you love me, Lorenzo, you can thank my mama in the Navy. So yeah.
Well, you've replaced my number one person that went to the Navy. It was David Robinson. Now it's you. So.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's a hard one to I don't know about that one, man.
Well, mostly because I don't want to pay $50,000 to be able to talk to David Robinson. So
I understand.
I did so many projects and so many hero sandwiches we had to make in class. And every time I did one, it was about David Robinson. He
Oh,
was
no kidding.
I'm a Spurs fan, and he was just so he was my favorite athlete of all time. Like I loved David Robinson. He never to me he never did anything wrong. Like never there was no bad things, nothing ever happened. Like he was never caught up in anything. He just played basketball. And as he was getting to the end of his career, I'm like, man, if this guy doesn't win the NBA championship, it'd be so disappointing. And then he ended up with
Yeah,
Tim Duncan and got two. So, but yeah,
right.
but you're my favorite person that went to the Navy now. So.
Yeah. I mean, what they show, in the media, like he really is a good dude. He's a good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just it's like because sometimes it's just those you don't see all that, or it's one of those things like, hey, you don't want to meet your heroes, because they're gonna be jerks, But
He's not that guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever in your travels have you ever met any famous people or whatever you would call famous?
Uh yeah, I mean, I've met briefly, I shook hands with David Robinson before. David Robinson don't remember me, but that was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I've met again. I think I'm shaking hands, shook hands with Roger Staubach. He would come back quite a bit.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think.
Any
Yeah,
like
I've traveled
presidents or
so many
anything?
places. Yeah, we Commander in Chief trophy went to the White House.
Oh, okay.
Everybody gets to shake hands with George W. Bush was there when I went.
Okay.
Um, and real quick, like when you go for that, so every
Yeah.
year, like the three academies, the Naval Academy, so Annapolis, West Point, and Air Force Academy, we compete for the Commander in Chief's trophy. And so whoever wins that Commander in Chief's trophy, you get to go to the White House and, meet the president, kind of hang out for the day. Dude, you want to talk about the best lemonade and sweet tea I have ever had in my life, man. Like, oh man. This lemonade, you ain't never had nothing like it.
Yeah.
Like Chick-fil-A lemonade ain't got nothing like White House lemonade, man. It's nuts.
And you know
I'm
what sucks
serious.
too? What sucks is like you'll never be able to get that ever.
Not again, yeah.
Because it is one of those things like, oh, let's say you're on vacation, you go to Hawaii or Alaska, somewhere you don't like far, and you're like, oh, I had the best whatever there. You can get it
Yeah.
again. It might take a while to save money or whatever, go on this trip again. But I mean, when are you gonna go to the White House again?
Yeah. Yeah,
Man, that's crazy.
I got a lot of little stuff like that in my story. It's like I got that Forrest Gump story. It's crazy, man. you know? Yeah.
Well, I definitely had to have you back on. Then we'll have to have a Ian story segment here, and just when you get time, just hey, I got 15 minutes. Let's tell these few stories. And
Dude, you don't want to do that. So
no, we're good.
so,
As long as you don't get in trouble, I'm
so,
here for it.
No, I'm not gonna say anything that I couldn't say, but like you got to know what you're getting yourself into, Lorenzo. I was a surface warfare officer in the Navy.
Okay.
And surface warfare officers, you get us telling stories, I will talk your ear off.
That's fine. That's why I have a podcast. That's why I have a podcast.
Yeah.
I guarantee there's a couple people that message me about particular episodes like, oh, this was a really cool episode or whatever. And I guarantee there's going to be some people that are like that you teed it up so much. I think you've done it like 3 times where you say you have a lot of stories about this where they're going to be like, all right, we want to hear more stories.
Oh man.
So yes, so it's gonna be needed and people are gonna want it, Ian. So
yeah,
despite your lack of wanting to be in the limelight, we will put you in there a few times here or there. So
got you.
There was one more. About famous people. What? Sometimes as you get in certain places in your life and you take for granted being around a famous person or whatever. The past few years, we've had the pleasure of having Jerry Glanville hang out with us. Jerry Glanville has been he coached in the NFL, coached I think in the XFL. He's been everywhere. He's a Perrysburg guy, so he's just been around our staff for the past 2 seasons, and he just
Nice.
shows up. We talked to him. He showed up at the game Friday. One the opposing coach from Southview came up to him and was like, and even Jerry Glenville was like, "You don't know me," and he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are." Like
Nice.
it's not a big like, yes, you're kind of a big deal, man. So, but it's cool because we can just like talk to him, and I sometimes I take for granted, like I spent 10 minutes talking to him in pregame, just chit chatting. We were talking about football and joking about coming on the podcast and that kind of stuff. But it's like a cool thing when you get to interact with people like that, and you know, and just be he's a part of us and part of our program.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So when I become famous for doing this podcast, then you're like, and then everyone will be like, "Oh, you get to go on Lorenzo's podcast. He's super famous now." And
Respect.
tell your stories.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're coming up. Actually, we're coming up on my 3-year anniversary of this podcast and 200 episodes. I think yours is 187. So
Yeah. That's cool, Lorenzo.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I definitely, again, Ian, thanks for coming on here. I definitely have you back on because I know, regardless of what other people say, I know I want to hear those stories, and if I'm going to hear them, I might as well record them so other people can hear them. So
got you. Got you.
So thanks, Ian, and I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow. We got to get that mini mommy figured out. But again, you know, like I said, thanks for coming on here, and thanks for all your help, man. You've been such a big asset to us and to me, and it's someone I can lean on. And I know, regardless of when Lathrop's out of there, I know if there's any other issues, I can always call you.
Definitely.
All right, man. Well, have a good one.
All right, man. You too. Thanks a lot, Lorenzo.
Yep. Thanks again to my guest, Ian Townsend, for being on the Nerdball podcast. Couple, man, the 2 stories that stand out, the dolphin story and then the piracy story where you got those pirates. Man, those are good. I can't wait for him to come back on to tell more stories. I know everyone's going to enjoy it. It was a great podcast. And again, a friend of mine that's been a big help to us at Glass City Metro Park, helping us get through all our issues through construction. And now as we were wrapping everything up, just a huge help. I know for me, I know it's a lot of it. If I talk to me or my staff, you know, we can't figure something out, call Ian, you know, see what he can do. And he always comes through and helps out. If he can't figure it out, he'll get someone out there. So thanks again to Ian for not only coming on the podcast, but always being a big help to us at the Metro Parks. Guys, this podcast, like I said at the top, coming on 3 years. If you have any ideas for a 3-year episode or the 200th episode, let me know. Shout out the nerdball podcast at gmail.com. Any of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, search the Nerdball podcast. We are on Twitter or X at the Nerdball Pod. I'm still thinking about doing a Snapchat, so by the time you hear this, I might have one of those. But let me know. I'll take any ideas of what you think we should do for 200 episodes and for the 3-year anniversary. So this is a one giant Nerdball community. So let me know what you think. That's it. I appreciate you all. You're all here. You're all willing to listen, download, share your favorite episode, all that kind of stuff. So keep doing that. This podcast will continue to grow. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you guys are too. So as always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, the Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for always helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.